I had speculated a little bit without knowing anything, obviously, when I did the stream on Saturday night that perhaps Brian Kelly could be next. At a minimum, we knew it wasn't going well for Brian Kelly
Correct.
at LSU. The offense, they've not been able to reboot that. Defensively, they've been mostly pretty good. That was until the second half of that A&M game on Saturday night when A&M just blew the doors off them. So it came apart rather quickly. It seemed apparent that things were not going to live up to preseason expectations here in 2025. And amid a steady drumbeat of rumors and speculation and whispers throughout the day on Sunday, the news came down around 8 p.m. Eastern-ish on Sunday night that, in fact, Brian Kelly was fired.
Correct.
At LSU. He's got a sizable buyout. There is some offset language in that. So if he ends up taking another job, it's not quite as big a hit to LSU. Similar in some respects to what we saw go down at Penn State with James Franklin. But this is a pretty big move because I think instantly this vaults to the top of the power rankings as arguably the best job that is available in college football, mindful of the fact that there could be more to come down the line. I don't think it was a gigantic surprise that they would move on Brian Kelly, but I just think the way everything unraveled for LSU, 9 weeks into the season, amid all of the hype, all of the talking that we did in the run up to this year.
Right.
Talk about a turn of fortunes. Just incredible the way this thing unfolded over the last month or so.
An incredible run of 2-3 years of LSU football intrigue, right? To go from a record-setting Heisman quarterback offense to a disastrous offense, given the return of Garrett Nussmeier and the promise of a deep stable of running backs and receivers and tight ends, and the ceiling or the potential of those guys seemed to be super intriguing. And the big question was, can the defense continue to take big steps forward? Seemingly, yes, before this weekend at least, that the defense was not the problem with this LSU team. If you were going to list the problems that needed to be solved, defense was nowhere near the top. And they just couldn't figure things out at any one given time. And Brian Kelly's specific tenure was marred by immediate promise. You have a lot of Brian Kelly experience, and we're going to go all over the place with this, but you were positive there would be quarterback controversies, plural, and there were none, basically, right?
Right.
That they bring in Jaden Daniels, and he is good and then incredible. And then Garrett Nussmeier takes over and is largely good, albeit inconsistent, but there was never a huge call for this program cannot continue this way. And so obviously everything came to a head on Saturday night with that second half against Texas A&M, and we'll get there more specifically. Well, you obviously already went there Saturday night, but Brian Kelly seems to have been these past couple years on constant edge, right? The loss to USC to begin last season, where he's slamming the table, the post game after I think the Florida win, when there was a question, was it the Florida win, when he was like, why aren't you saying nicer things? Right? We just won a game. Right. He's been under a ton of pressure, has worn that pressure very publicly, it seems. And the report was there was an argument with some power brokers and Scott Woodward, the AD, about firing assistants. And it all came to a head after the game and, gets fired unceremoniously Sunday after the A&M game. You could see it coming. You didn't know if it was going to happen this week or a different week or in the offseason. It was just not meant to be long-term. And it was not clearly getting better in any one phase on offense, sorry, that's a weird way of putting it. It was not heading in a direction where you're like, I see this is going to go well soon.
No.
And it had to happen. I don't know what your reaction was in terms of how quickly this happened. This is going to be an absolutely bonkers carousel season. It already is, with openings at Florida, LSU, UCLA, Virginia Tech, Penn State. It's already crazy. UAB, Colorado State. There's going to be I'm not saying those things to be cheeky. There are going to be reverberations with every one of these jobs throughout the sport to 73 schools.
Well, the biggest loser in this outside of Brian Kelly is a team like Penn State, which thought it was moving first and has since been seemingly pushed into the shadows because of some other really high profile openings that have emerged here over the last few weeks. This isn't to say that the Penn State job is any different now, but relative to the field, there's just a lot more competition. The thought that came to mind, you remember years ago when South Carolina, I think, moved to fire Will Muschamp in advance of what appeared to be a bidding war then for Tom Herman.
Right.
And I don't remember if it was Will Muschamp or whoever at South Carolina got rid of, but they didn't get Tom Herman because suddenly there was a bunch of stuff that went down in the coaching world. There were a bunch of other openings that popped up, and South Carolina ended up being just kind of an afterthought amid a coaching carousel. And I fear a little bit for that on the Penn State side. This is not a Penn State conversation, but certainly with LSU opening up, as I said at the top, this job vaults right to the top. Each of the previous, 3 coaches who have been at LSU have won national championships. Brian Kelly did not. I'm curious to know if what we have seen go on around college football with teams firing coaches, specifically the Florida firing.
Yeah.
If that had anything to do with the early termination of Brian Kelly. Because you're right. I mean, this was not going in a good direction. It felt like it was going to end up at this point. Anyway, if there was kind of a flashpoint with a conversation between Kelly and Woodward and that play caller duties, things of that nature, then maybe that contributed. But I do wonder if all of the talk about Florida targeting Lane Kiffin led to LSU wondering, hey, should we make the move now so that we don't get left on the sidelines if maybe that's the guy that they want? Because if you read Bruce's article, if you read many articles out there, Lane Kiffin is the first line on seemingly all of them. Yeah. There are a bunch of teams that are going to want Lane Kiffin's services. So I wonder if that had anything to do with it. Of course, we'll never know for sure. On the BK side, I mean, I think it is telling for sure what you just described of him very publicly wearing that pressure. Mm-hmm. Because Brian Kelly, for the overwhelming majority of his career, has been good at not doing that. We've described him as many things. I would say chief among them, a politician.
Right. So no, I was just going to say he wears it with his red face on the sidelines. We've seen those Notre Dame pictures.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, of course. But in terms of the press conference.
Sure.
In terms of the press conference, Brian Kelly has been a seasoned political professional.
Sure.
And people who cover the team will tell you as much. Nobody really knows this guy. That's always been his deal. And he's very good at kind of keeping true feelings, keeping true thoughts close to the vest, at least when he is in front of the cameras like that. And the fact that it seemed as though he was feeling a little bit more pressure than usual on that stage, I thought was telling.
Yeah.
And it did feel a bit like he was flailing, right? He couldn't get the coordinator thing right. It was clear that he understood the expectations within the LSU community and that he was not living up to them. And so, yeah, I expected we would have some sort of change, but it did surprise me that it came in the manner that it did. And I do wonder if it had something to do with what else has gone on around the world of college football with respect to other openings.
Right. So, you're going to have the names that have been bandied about for some of these big jobs. You mentioned Lane Kiffin. Obviously, he has it very good at Ole Miss and in Oxford, both in terms of where that program is right now and annually threatening double-digit wins. And he's got a very clear level of autonomy in how he runs his program, right? The program like Ole Miss, which is not used to this level of consistent success in the modern era, has found a coach getting them to that point. So they're letting him do what he wants. And does that kind of freedom exist at LSU? Does that kind of freedom exist at Florida or Penn State, right? Who knows? Who's to say? There's a lot of money behind the scenes at those types of places that like having a say in things and like having their hands shaken at golf events. And that's not necessarily Lane Kiffin's life, allegedly, in Oxford, Mississippi. And so he's got it good.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if he's got bad blood with anybody behind the scenes in any of these places because he wanted a job at a different point. There's always going to be those kind of behind the scenes things. But LSU is also in this position of looking for a coach now because it's not just their own search and vetting candidates. They want it to be very clearly known that this job is open. So if Lane Kiffin is weighing things, if Kenny Dillingham is weighing things, if Mike Elko, take your pick of any of John Sumrall, any of the names that are being talked about for jobs like this are considering their future, that they know that LSU may in fact be an option that they could go after, or maybe an option that is going after them. So LSU is a great job. LSU, you mentioned the national championships, the previous coaches who've won national championships, and Ed Orgeron, Les Miles, and Nick Saban. And it's a place you can recruit at an incredibly high level, top 5. It's a transfer portal destination. You're going to have financial support. Obviously, there is some leadership questions at LSU at the moment. They don't have a president. They have an interim president. The governor is part of this search and decision-making process.
That's what you really want. You really want politicians part of the most critical conversations.
Doesn't seem to be an incredibly popular guy at the moment, but I suppose that's a different conversation.
Sure.
That LSU is in a period of transition, not the least of which is like, hey, this is the AD who gave both Jimbo Fisher and Brian Kelly these buyouts. Like, nobody has been more talented recently at finding coaches past their prime and paying them over $100 million not to coach. Why is this guy still employed at the moment? Maybe that changes soon. I don't know. So LSU, it does seem like they're at an extremely obvious transition point here in terms of behind the scenes and very publicly. So we'll see. LSU is going to be one of those programs too, though, that's going to be just fine in terms of not even rebuilding. I think people just either want to play for LSU or not. I don't know. I saw this. I don't remember where I saw this. I saw this online. It was a good point being made that it's one of the few schools that people commit to and not necessarily the coach.
I saw that too.
And so not an original thought from me, but I sort of respond, I think, affirmatively to that. So it's a fascinating job. Brian Kelly will be hired elsewhere.
He will, if he wants to be.
Well, I think it's probably going to be part of his language.
It is part of the offset language in the contract. And again, the way that this works is the buyout figure on its face is something like $54 million, give or take. But if he takes another job, there will be an offset involved based on what he has paid. They also structured this so that the buyout isn't due all upon the termination.
Yeah.
It can be spread out over several years and months.
Yes.
So it's not like LSU is on the hook for this money right now, and they may not be on the hook for all of it, depending on what BK does next. I would not put it past him to just say, I'm going to take a $1 media job and you can pay me my $54 million, please.
Exactly right.
But we will see. Certainly, if he wants to coach again, there will be no shortage of options that are out there. I think I counted something like 8 Power 4 openings.
Yeah.
Right now, there are definitely more to come in the very near future over the next month or so as we get really down the stretch run here.
By the way, Colorado ? Michigan State ? Wisconsin ? Florida State ?
Yeah.
There's a lot out there. And then there was the story, I don't know if you touched on this Saturday night, there was the story and the denial about Sark and potential interest going from the Texas job to a job like the Tennessee Titans in the NFL.
I mean, that's sort of the point, though. The point is this coaching carousel is friggin' nuts. And my point on Saturday night was, I mean, at the time we didn't know about LSU.
There had so many bad decisions, Ty.
I know. I kicked around the idea that maybe LSU could make a move, but I didn't know anything.
Right.
I started the show by talking about the whole Texas rumor thing and how it would essentially be like dropping a second Jupiter in the solar system.
Yeah.
In terms of coaching openings and this carousel that we speak so much of now, having Texas in there, in that equation, would just upset the balance of the force completely. Whether you're a Penn State or Virginia Tech, like everybody has to go down a few pegs in terms of who they think their top candidate is, who they should be targeting. If you've got jobs like Texas, now LSU out there.
Buddy, Auburn.
It definitely changes Auburn. It
Hugh
definitely
Freeze
changes the
outlasted these
calculation.
dudes.
It changes the calculation.
We'll see how Auburn ends. Obviously, Auburn, a nice step forward with their win and scoring more than 20 points in an SEC game with their win against Arkansas, buys him a little bit of time. But this is going to... There are only so many coaches to go around, by the way.
That's the thing. Like, if you're Will Stein right now, if you really want a big job,
Buddy, if you're Will Stein right now, let's get focused. Let's get focused on
well, I'm just saying.
Some adjustments. Yeah, Oregon, Wisconsin was not a great watch. But yes, no, there are only so many coordinators that seem to have the necessary experience and upside. There are only so many head coaches who seem like they could handle some sort of huge power conference job, or, you know, a G6 head coach who could make that leap. There's only so many guys. And then there's going to be 7 schools who are like, oh God, we're down to our 11th choice. Okay. And like splashing water, like, I guess Frank Reich for an interim year. Like, we'll do that too. Like, he'll just go on a tour of interim jobs.
Yeah.
It's going to be a wild Thanksgiving time. I mean, the portal is what, early January now?
Yeah.
Portal's early January, but early signing day is before then. It's going to be something else. And I can't wait. Truly can't wait. There's going to be a $15 million head coach.
There are going to be some very bad decisions made.
Like, what is Lane Kiffin's worth right now in the open market? If Ole Miss, Florida, and LSU want him, what is his worth?
I mean, he is Scrooge McDuck diving into the sea of gold coins.
Yes.
And that's whether he stays at Ole Miss or whether he goes to any number of these openings that are out there. Chief among them, I think, being Florida and LSU. It seems like they're both in the running for Lane's services. Per our friend Bruce Feldman over at The Athletic, the candidates that he lists out for LSU, Lane Kiffin, obviously, Eli Drinkwitz, Kenny Dillingham, Clark Lee, and John Sumrall. Those are the 5 names. Some are more realistic than others. I think it stands to reason that a guy like a Kenny Dillingham is worth a phone call, but definitely seems like an ASU guy through and through.
Of course.
I would not expect
I'm almost positive he's from Arizona, went to ASU, and so did his wife.
Yeah, there's
like,
a lot of
deep roots. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of reason to think that Dillingham's not going anywhere, but I look at a name like a Clark Lee. I don't know if he's high enough profile for the LSU job.
I mean, he's top 10 team in the SEC
I'm just
right
saying,
now. Yeah.
I don't know.
He's Nashville through and through.
But he's Nashville through and through.
Yeah.
LSU, any of these jobs can probably afford to pay him a lot more than what he's getting right now at Vandy, but is that even a consideration? I don't know. Right. So there is definite value in staying where you're at if you feel like you have a good thing going.
Yeah.
There is definite value in not necessarily chasing the bag if you feel comfortable with the system that you have built. I think that's part of why Bruce did not go to the same extremes as some others in listing Marcus Freeman on this list. I understand why people would want Marcus Freeman. It totally makes sense to me. I don't think he's leaving. I think he's got a good thing. I think he's got it humming at Notre Dame. He's got an exciting young quarterback. He's building a young defense. I understand why you got to make that call, but I don't think he's moving.
Yeah.
And so that puts a lot of teams like LSU in a really interesting spot. To your point, there just aren't a whole lot of coaches to go around that rise to the level of some of these marquee openings.
Which is why I say $15 million, $17 million. That's supply and demand.
They should throw $20 million at Saban.
LSU?
Throw $20 million at Saban.
He said it was the biggest regret was leaving LSU for the Dolphins, that he
throw
had it really good at LSU.
25 million, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to get Nick Saban. That's what I would do.
I think he's got it so good right now.
I'd throw whatever he wants at him.
How old is he?
Make him say no. Doesn't matter.
70s?
Make him say no.
Oh, they will. They will have that. I mean, look, Scott Woodward is not afraid, if he's employed, to have that kind of conversation. We're like, we'll give you a $300 million buyout.
Make him say no.
Yeah, of course. But then, like, you have to be realistic. It's been a very good season, by the way, for also the, like, media these days. Coaches, I think, so we had Sark, we've had Mike Elko, we've had, I think, Eli Drinkwitz, and Lane Kiffin had the conversation with his team, which I think is always, like,
which is like the most adult way that you can handle it.
Yes. I remember Chip Kelly doing that before with Oregon. We're like, my name being in these conversations is about the hard work that we all do together. It's if my name weren't in these conversations, that means we all weren't doing something right. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I cannot wait. This is going to be great.